welcome.
Thank you very much.
Go1 has raised nearly $400 million US dollars and generates a solid, healthy business. Is that right?
Yes, no, thank you very much.
So to go that way, Go1 is a learning content provider, all right? And with over 8 million learners and available in 60 countries. And what I really like is that platforms like edX, Coursera, or Harvard University are part of Go1's subscription, right?
That's correct, yes.
Would you like to add anything more about Go1?
Yes, so Go1 is effectively the Spotify or Netflix for corporate learning. So we aggregate all of those providers into one platform and then offer that to organizations around the world.
Okay, that's wonderful. Because actually, I would like really to talk a bit more about your entrepreneurial journey. And I know it's very much connected with Go1, but it's more about you, Melvyn. And I had a pleasure to meet you last year when you joined Endeavor Poland launch event. Yes, and since then, I've been truly inspired by who you are and what you represent. And because you in person and embody the multiplier effect. So dreaming big, scaling fast, and paying it forward. Because you really inspire, mentor, and invest in the next generation of entrepreneurs and founders. So I'd like to continue that way. And I read something that you said. I'm an African passionate about solving significant problems with technology. And you also said education has had such an impact in my life, and something which has been ingrained in me since I was young. The role of education and excellence have allowed me incredible opportunities. So kickstarting, who or what has inspired you to become an entrepreneur and become a global entrepreneur in education?
I think like many of us entrepreneurs, many of our businesses are built on our personal experiences and our personal passions. And so within our family, education is very important. My mother is one of 36 children, and my grandfather believed a lot in education, and he was willing to invest a lot in education. And my parents have been able to achieve what they achieved through education. And so when I thought about building Go1, it was, how do I leverage the privilege I've had going to good schools and growing up in a good home to actually have an impact at a bigger scale? And education is one of those tools which, if you get it right, you can actually change your socioeconomic circumstance. So if you have education, you can get a better job. If you have a better job, you can provide for your family. And education is that tool. And so for me, the Go1 story and my story is really grounded in how do you use education to unlock someone's positive potential. And so that's how we got to where we are.
Has your dream about education changed since then? And how do you see the future of education now?
It definitely has. When we began, we were focusing more on South African learners and, unemployed youth. Whereas now we realize it's a global opportunity, and by addressing the education problem globally, we're able to have a greater impact. And with technology, we're able to really scale and get there successfully. And so I think about education now, I always argue that the best education is personalized, has context, and ultimately enables someone to achieve their economic objectives. So to get the job you want to get that promotion, to get that skill you want to achieve, and it bridges that gap.
And Go1 has scaled since then significantly, right? It's an impressive growth since roughly 2015 until 2023 now, and your dream becomes reality, and it's still up there. And so, can you share maybe also the lessons you've learned scaling the company? Companies that scale so fast face a lot of challenges, right?
This is true, and I think many of us as entrepreneurs as well are fairly young and also first-time entrepreneurs. I think for me, the biggest help has been leaning on people that have been there before and almost paid the school fees they're going to pay. And so I remember, when I joined Endeavor in 2015, I think we had $2 million of revenue. We had like a small group of guys, and we were trying to think about going global. Fast forward today, we're more than 1,000 people across 14 countries. And there's so many mistakes you can make. And so for me, the biggest learning's been, don't be afraid to be a part of communities and reach out to entrepreneurs that have been there and done that before, because someone's been in that journey.
Right. And that's part of that paid forward as well.
Yeah, exactly
and
that.
So when I thought about scaling company that fast, I felt a little bit uncomfortable and wanted to ask you, like, how do you balance the speed of growth, still providing quality, and being fine with your vision and with yourself?
It's an important point. I think for a long time, technology companies specifically had an issue where it was growth at all costs, so not caring about your customer, not caring about your unit economics and your fundamentals. And so for us, it was being very close to our customers, because even though we may have ideas of what the customer wants, nothing better than getting your customer telling you what to build and what to focus on. And so for us, as we grew, we're very intentional about building our teams around supporting our customers. So for example, have a central development team, have in-country teams supporting customers on customer success, having local partnerships, and all of that has evolved around that customer need as we scaled.
Right. Do you have operations in Poland?
Yes, so currently expanding in Poland from an education perspective. So I don't have to tell you guys, but Poland's a phenomenal market when it comes to education, and just incredible opportunities here. And so we see strong growth in the Polish market, and we're currently investing in the market at the moment. And even just myself personally, I'm very passionate about education, and we're actually building schools, physical schools in Poland. And so we're opening up our first school in Katowice in September. Watch this space. But really great to be able to be part of the ecosystem and give back in that way as well.
Wow, that's probably the first time you say that loud in Poland, right?
It's a soft launch, I hope.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. And this is so much about paying it forward. So how do you really work with the next generation of founders? Are those founders, or you're more still focusing on coaching the next generation of executives and managers at GoOne?
So something which I really struggled with when starting GoOne was finding my first capital, or my first investors. I was doing my master's in Oxford in the UK. I'd been in banking in Goldman Sachs, BCG. I'd done all those things, but I still struggled to find my first piece of capital. But in the same vein, I think many of us in tech discount that we stand on the shoulders of giants. And so for me, to your question, Bartek, when I give back, it's two ways. So one is I'm an active investor, and so I invest actively in pre-seed and seed companies. I'm trying to at least be that first check. And I tell myself I want to be the investor I wish I had when I was building my businesses, because I struggled in that regard. But also in the same vein, I think many of us, whether you're an entrepreneur, an employee at a company, we often discount how much learning we've had in our own lives. And so even before we were a big company, I've been very intentional about sharing school fees, lessons learned. And so if it's in the form of mentoring, in the form of a conversation, because I've learned so much from people who've been generous with their time with me.
Right. And does that keep you focused and motivated going on, or is there anything else? Because you've been so involved in the business that it's tiring. What keeps you up and running?
So, but look, for me, my career objective is to create 100,000 jobs and sustainable jobs. So unfortunately, GoOne only has 1,000 employees, and so we have a very long way to go to get towards that particular goal. And so for me, the biggest impact I get is being able to see companies and entrepreneurs I've supported actually grow and scale. And so that's what really enthuses me to keep going.
Fantastic. So almost wrapping up, but it's a question to you, but you know the answer, but to our audience. Is there a company harder to get into than Harvard University? So actually, there's a company called Blinkist, and acceptance rate was 4.6%, and Harvard's was 5.2. So it's common knowledge that Harvard is tough to get into. Once there, you expect to be surrounded by smartest people with the biggest and brightest ideas. Having Harvard on a CV opens up a lot of doors, and it's the same with Blinkist, yeah. And so, but like GoOne and Blinkist, you've shared with us today something that has never been told in Poland before, that you actively invest in schools in Poland. But what's the link between GoOne and Blinkist? Please share with us.
Yes, thank you. So Blinkist is one of the world's leaders in mobile online training. They're a company headquartered in Germany. And we announced yesterday publicly, and Bartek was next to me, that we acquired Blinkist. So Blinkist is now part of Go1 globally, and so they're using their platform to expand further into Europe. It's off the back of an acquisition we made in France last year of a similar company, and so for us, Europe's a priority, Poland's a priority, and so we're great to be able to spend more time here, but definitely looking forward to seeing how we can bring together both Blinkist and Go1. It's incredible though, just as a side note, I was reflecting on Blinkist, and together they focus on B2B and we're B2C. I think it'd be great to see how we can make learning a daily discipline as opposed to it being a chore that one does. So looking forward to that.
Right. So that needs a round of applause. Thank you very much, Melvyn, for being with us. From a founding first ever unicorn in South Africa, ed tech company, to mentoring next generation of founders, and also present in Poland here. Thank you.